This is Sensor Studio, always clouded. The United States government shut down at 1:01 post-meridian Korean time, its first shutdown since 2018. Today, let's take a closer look at this topic. Let's get right into it. As I said in yesterday's video, the two parties' budget conflict for next year continues. The United States Republican and Democratic parties each voted on their budget proposals the day before the new fiscal year. Republicans proposed a 7-week temporary budget, rejected 55-45. Democrats also proposed a temporary budget, which failed too. The broader Democratic bloc only received 47 votes, so in the end, it didn't pass. To pass the budget, they needed to secure 60 seats, but no one was able to do that. As a result, the United States government went into a shutdown. The main issue in the new fiscal year's budget was healthcare policy. The Democratic Party demanded an extension of subsidies for public health insurance, known as Obamacare, but the Republican Party refused. As a result, the conflict between the two sides reached its peak. When the temporary budget was rejected, the Democratic and Republican parties began blaming each other. Chuck Schumer, Democratic Senate Majority Leader, said, "We didn't want a shutdown and are ready to work with Republicans for bipartisan compromise." He said the ball is in their court. Mike Johnson, Republican Speaker of the House, told Cable News Network a shutdown is now inevitable and questioned how long Chuck Schumer will keep the government closed. They were both trying to shift the blame to each other. Due to the shutdown, many United States federal government services will be suspended or disrupted until Congress passes a budget. Governments and agencies should stop non-essential operations first. Immediate uncertainty is expected about federal employees' status and treatment. In the 2018 shutdown, 800,000 of 2.1 million federal employees were furloughed or worked without pay for 34 days. President Trump appears to view the shutdown crisis as an opportunity. He often discusses the trade war abroad and factionalism at home, presenting himself as a president who is always fighting. He knows that as conflicts intensify, his political position strengthens. This shutdown also seems to be used as an opportunity to push through strong reforms and personnel restructuring by taking advantage of the chaos. Wall Street warns this shutdown may differ from previous ones. Some analysts are suggesting that beyond just a halt in administration, there is a possibility of large-scale restructuring being carried out under the leadership of the White House. Concerns are rising that this could mark an unprecedented period in United States history, as President Trump has openly discussed potential mass federal employee layoffs. If the shutdown becomes a reality, the first to be affected will be about 800,000 to 900,000 non-essential personnel who will be forced into unpaid leave. In past cases, employees could only receive their wages after the shutdown ended the following year, but since the possibility of layoffs has been mentioned this time, the impact is expected to be even greater. This is a situation that could shake the trust and the stability of being a government employee. Only essential personnel will exceptionally continue to work. Jobs such as soldiers, police officers, correctional staff, and border patrol agents are tied to national security and will remain for now. The suspension of public services closely related to people's daily lives is also inevitable. National parks and major museums like the Smithsonian will be closed to visitors. Passport issuance delays will directly inconvenience travelers, and suspended visa processing may leave foreign workers and international students stranded. If the Federal Aviation Administration and customs operations are paralyzed, it could lead to logistics delays and disruptions in air travel. Core welfare programs like Social Security and Medicare are legally maintained, but the problem is the processing speed. Staff cuts delay paperwork and payments, directly affecting vulnerable groups like low-income people, the elderly, and patients. This goes beyond simple inconvenience and can lead to serious situations where people's livelihoods and medical treatments are delayed. The main worry is that this could cause a major economic shock. A major government shutdown would also spread uncertainty to private companies and financial markets. Contracts will be put on hold, and companies directly or indirectly connected to the government will face reduced profits. Only key services like law enforcement, border control, and essential welfare will continue. If other agencies halt until more funding is approved, administrative paralysis will soon impact the entire economy. In the end, it's still unclear whether this shutdown will simply end as a brief administrative suspension lasting a few days, or if it will become an opportunity that fundamentally shakes up the federal government's staffing and administrative system. Since President Trump is discussing cutting public officials and shrinking government, this could change the size and nature of American administration. Above all, there is now a high possibility that key economic statistics, such as the employment report scheduled to be released on October 3rd, as well as indicators for prices, labor, and growth, will be disrupted. These indicators, which are considered benchmarks of the United States economy, are not only important for salaries, but are also closely watched by investors around the world. If the staff of the responsible departments stop working due to the shutdown, the scheduled releases may not happen on time. This isn't just a data gap, it also raises uncertainty as the market loses benchmarks to gauge future direction. In particular, many expected that the employment report scheduled to be released this time would show negative results. Persistent worries about slower job growth and higher unemployment would have posed a political challenge for the Trump administration if reported as is. Because the announcement was delayed by the shutdown, the administration avoided public scrutiny of negative economic indicators. Ironically, this hides unfavorable reality for President Trump. More notable is the effect on financial markets and monetary policy. When economic indicators aren't released, the Federal Reserve struggles to make data-driven decisions. In this environment, a rate cut becomes more likely to prevent an economic slowdown. There is rising market expectation that a prolonged shutdown will increase pressure on the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. If interest rates fall, it will temporarily ease financial markets, aligning with President Trumpo's growth-friendly policies. In the end, the national crisis caused by the shutdown is ironically creating a situation that gives President Trump a political advantage. Unfavorable economic indicators are hidden, the market can rebound in anticipation of the Fed's accommodative monetary policy, and the president can present this as his own political achievement. Some believe this situation benefits President Trump. The stock market appears mostly unchanged. New York's 3 main stock indexes have climbed for 3 straight days. It seems that investors are interpreting the economic concerns caused by the United States federal government shutdown as increasing the likelihood that the United States Central Bank will lower its policy interest rate. Of course, the stock market was mostly weak during the session due to caution over the possibility of a United States government shutdown, but in the end, it closed on an upward trend. In fact, even if a shutdown occurs, the impact of a United States federal government shutdown on the economy is usually limited and often recovers quickly, but this time, concerns are growing that the situation could be different. In fact, even the longest shutdown in history, which lasted from 2018 to 2019, did not leave a long-term impact on the United States economy and financial markets. However, Cable News Network analyzed that the United States economy in 2025 is much more vulnerable than it was back then. With the job market unstable and the Trump administration planning to cut the federal workforce, this uncertainty could cause further economic turmoil. The United States Congressional Budget Office said the 2018 shutdown caused $3 billion in economic growth, or about 4.2 trillion won. President Trump will probably see this shutdown as an opportunity and try to do what he wants. He might even lay off a large number of government employees. It will be resolved eventually, but the outcome depends on how fast Democrats and Republicans agree. The scenarios can probably be divided into 1 or 2 possibilities. First, there's the scenario where both parties quickly come together and pass a temporary budget. Some Democratic lawmakers might break ranks and support the Republican proposal, or conversely, the Republicans might concede on some healthcare policies that the Democrats are demanding. The government could temporarily catch its breath, but this isn't a fundamental solution. When the temporary budget ends in November or December, the same problem will likely happen again. Ultimately, postponing the conflict will deepen political distrust and prompt investors to worry about another shutdown. Past cases show several brief shutdowns. In 1995 and 2013, they ended within days to 2 weeks. If public pressure grows, politicians may quickly reach an agreement again. However, even a short-term shutdown can cause administrative paralysis that directly inconveniences daily life, and especially in areas like aviation, passports, and immigration services, confusion can arise, deepening public distrust. Ultimately, both parties will suffer politically. The biggest worry is an extended shutdown. A situation similar to the 35-day shutdown that continued from 2018 to 2019 could be repeated, with government operations gradually coming to a halt for several weeks or even dozens of days. Many predict this could be even more serious than before. Since President Trump has mentioned mass layoffs of federal employees, there is a possibility that this could lead not just to a temporary paralysis, but to a reduction in the very structure of the government itself. Hundreds of thousands of public employees would lose their jobs, welfare services would be cut, and national systems like airports, customs, and courts would shut down. The economic impact would inevitably be significant as well. Private companies that have direct or indirect contracts with the government would also be hit one after another, and consumer confidence and financial market stability could be shaken at the same time. A prolonged shutdown undermines trust in American politics. If it continues, what are your thoughts on the first United States government shutdown in 7 years? Share in the comments. That's all for this video, thank you.